everyone, welcome back to the channel. The book I'm going to share with you today is called The School for Good Mothers by Jessamyn Chan. I actually read this book for my work book club, but honestly I think I would have eventually read it based on books I've read in the past. So the gist of the novel is a mother in her late 30s named Frida has, as she says throughout the novel, a very bad day. And this bad day will haunt her for a very long time. Let me back up. Frida has a daughter named Harriet who's about a year and a half. Frida lives alone and shares custody with her ex-husband who left her when Harriet was 2 months for another woman that he was seeing while Frida was pregnant. And I'm already mad. So Frida is exhausted and overwhelmed, a side effect of not only being an insomniac, but also caring for a child who screams pretty much all the time. So one day while Harriet is with Frida, Frida decides to run out real quick and grab some coffee. So she puts Harriet in what I imagine is like a little baby bouncer, but stationary. They call it an exercisor, but what do I know? So while Frida's getting coffee, she also decides to run to her office to grab some files for a looming deadline. And on her way home, she receives a call from a stranger who says, "We have your daughter." Panicked, as you can imagine, Frida tries to decipher what's happening. It's determined that it's a police officer on the line. Thank God, I guess. And he's explaining that the neighbors heard Harriet screaming and called Child Protective Services. I'm already having a panic attack, and I know this is fiction, and I don't have kids. But what happens next can only be described as a witch hunt. Poor Frida cannot catch a break. She arrives at the police station to see that her ex-husband, Gust, who names their kid Gust, is there with his new girlfriend, Susanna. And Frida is interrogated about why she left and what she was doing. And things escalate so quickly for Frida. The way Chan writes through this part makes me feel like I'm going through the pain and struggle that Frida is. And so a social worker is assigned to investigate Frida's mothering. And this social worker is just awful to Frida. She gives her no slack. She always arrives late to appointments where Frida's supposed to see her daughter, but then won't let her make up that missed time. She watches Frida like a hawk when she has her 1 hour supervised visits with Harriet, critiquing how she talks to Harriet, how she interacts with her, how she consoles her. She chastises Frida every single chance she gets, and when after weeks they're all supposed to have a court hearing about Frida's punishment, the social worker says not one good thing about Frida. Ultimately, Frida is sentenced to an entire year at an experimental facility where she can learn to be a good mother, hence the title. And during her time at this facility, she can't have any of her personal belongings, including her own clothes, her phone, any photos, nothing. She can't talk to anybody outside of the facility. And the mothers in this school are forced to wear uniforms, bunk together in these tiny rooms, follow a stringent schedule. There's cameras everywhere and guards monitoring their literal every move. They're prisoners. Frida can only talk to Harriet once a week via something that I assume is like a Zoom call, and more often than not, there's either connection issues or Harriet is sick or calls are dropped. And after a day or so at the facility, the mothers are grouped into cohorts based on the age, gender, and number of their children. So Frida is grouped with a few other mothers who have toddler-aged daughters. The rules for this facility are just bonkers. They are constantly monitored in ridiculously invasive and intrusive ways. If the staff of the facility see or hear the mothers do or say things they shouldn't, if their interactions during class aren't appropriately motherly, they'll be dismissed from the program and will have their parental rights terminated. And they'll be on the equivalent of like a sex offender registry for bad mothers. Anyone who searches their social security numbers will see what they've done. So part of the education these mothers receive involves taking care of creepy ass animatronic AI dolls designed to look like their own children. This part gives me the absolute heebie-jeebies because it reminds me of that movie Megan, where that doll starts like killing people for the girl that she's assigned to or whatever. And the other terrifying thing is that these dolls can feel. They can feel. They can cry. They can produce actual tears. They respond based on how they learn to interact with their mothers. The only thing that really indicates that they're not real is that they require monthly replacement of coolant in their systems. A lot of really sad and infuriating and uncomfortable things happen while Frida is at this facility, and while I felt like I could predict a lot of what happened, which I wouldn't consider bad, I didn't predict the ending, which I loved. I loved that I couldn't predict it, not the ending itself. This novel really focuses on some tough ideas like mental health, what it means to be a good parent, what type of identity women are allowed to have, the uneven expectations of men and fathers and women and mothers. The part I didn't mention earlier is that there's also a facility for fathers, and it is so uneven and unequal, the way that the mothers are treated versus the fathers, what the fathers are allowed to do and what the mothers aren't allowed to do. So my recommendation for The School for Good Mothers is, just like last time, minimum try it. I would say definitely devour it. But this book isn't going to be for everyone, and I think that's why I'm also including try it. But honestly, you don't need to have human kids to feel all of the feelings. I replaced the human children with my dogs, my babies, and there was a time where I just had such a panic attack. For me, it was really, really hard to read because it made me so aggravated and anxious. Again, like the last book, I could only read like one chapter a day because it was just so exhausting to navigate my own feelings, let alone Frida's. It gave serious Handmaid's Tale vibes, actually altering my mood while I was reading it. And when I finished, I literally said to my book club buddies in all caps, I just finished the book and I feel some kind of way. I feel like this book honestly is gonna blow up, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone makes it into a movie or a limited series. It's got the tone of dystopian, but not dystopian enough to not come true, and that terrifies me. So thank you so much for coming back to the channel. I cannot wait to see you in the next one. Now go read something.